We've all had that experience of trying to untangle a knot. It may have been a knot in our hair, which can be painful. Maybe a shoelace so knotted up that you just pull your shoe off as hard as you can without untying it. Or perhaps a chain necklace, which can require delicate untangling that sometimes can take a while, a long time. Sometimes we don't even know how something became all knotted up in the first place. We just have to figure out how to get it untangled, how to remove the knot. Sometimes in our lives we find ourselves tangled up on the inside. Something or someone or some event has left us all knotted up. And most of this comes from stress and anxiety and uncertainty about the future. Well, stress and anxiety and uncertainty is a good description of individuals in our society today as we continue to battle the COVID-19 virus. Life has been turned upside down as days, they've been turned into weeks, and weeks now into months. And the light at the end of the tunnel, it just has not yet appeared. As a result, we are all knotted up with entangled emotions within our hearts and our lives. Stress, in the first place, has become such an ingrained part of our vocabulary and daily existence long before the virus came along. And that it's difficult really to believe that our current use of that word stress originated only a little more than 50 years ago, when it was essentially coined by a young medical student named Hans Selye. As a medical student, he observed in his patients suffering from different diseases and illnesses that they often exhibited identical signs and symptoms. He said in his writings, they just looked sick. This observation may have been the first step in his recognition of stress in the human body. Well, I think most people are familiar with stress in their lives. Indeed, it's impossible to live a stress-free life. However, it's not often the stress that kills us, as they say, but our reaction to it. How do we respond to when we're stressed? When we're all knotted up on the inside, how can we respond in a way that is not only good for ourselves, but good for others and the people around us? Negatively, we know stress can wear us down physically. It can cause us to lash out at others, to be depressed, or even to do harmful things in our lives and in the lives of other people. Well, as a people of faith, we are not immune from stress in our lives. No, our hearts and our lives can become just as stressful as the person next door who has no faith. Our lives can become entangled just like anybody else. Yet our faith in God allows us to face stressful times with an inner peace that helps us navigate through the most difficult times with the assurance that we are not alone. In John's Gospel, Jesus speaking to some very stressed out disciples and followers, he said to them, "I have told you these things so that you may have peace. In this world, you will have trouble. You'll have stress. But take heart, I have overcome the world." We're living in a stressful time. If you're like me, you're getting weary and worn down by life so unsettling, we don't know when it will return. We get frustrated. I get upset. I get impatient. I worry. Anxiety. I get stressed out. When will this craziness come to an end? But then I have to remind ourselves that as a person of faith, God is in the midst of our stress, seeking to untangle our lives in such a way to set us free again. I wish it was an overnight or a magical word that could be said that would lead to a stress-free life, but we don't have that. But what the Bible does promise, that God will be with us in the midst of all of life, not just when we're sailing or cruising alone, but instead when life is all entangled and we are knotted up and we are stressed, God can give us a peace that the world simply cannot give. So as I go through this pandemic with you, my prayer for all of us is that we will discover that peace of Christ in our lives amidst everything else that's going on. That we'll continue to trust that God will get us to the place where God wants us to be. And that God will bring us to a better day and a better time. There'll never be a world without stress. But there will always also be a God who is with us in the midst of it. May we not forget that as we continue to live together in this world. May God bless each of you this week.